Someone give me a target!
Last time.
I can remember going out, and then the next thing I can remember is being spun round, my head hitting the deck first, and then the rest of my body. So it whatever it was at the time, because obviously I didn't know it, it just whatever had hit me. It was like being hit with a baseball bat. Is all I can, compare it to. And I can remember the dust settling and a piece of metal sticking out of my leg. That piece of metal, that's a tail fin from an 82mm Russian mortar round, which is what was fired. One round they'd fired in towards the sniper position, and the next round had come through the gap basically. So it had impacted on the sandbags, continued through. Tail fin continued its own projectile, gone into my left leg. I looked down and this was sort of twisted up in my combats, sticking out of my leg. And I couldn't move, my legs were like side by side. I just remember not being able to think, I'm moving and thinking, shit, what's happened? The dust, yellowy dust settling clear. Ryan Mumford, I can remember him grabbing my morphine out, taking the caps off, and then the forward air controller must have initially gone to run up the stairs, and then when he must have, obviously what had gone on with me, he'd turned around and come back down. So Ryan had given him the morphine and said, put it in his leg. And I can remember him putting it in my leg, but he had it the wrong way around, so the needle went through his thumb. And I can remember Ryan grabbing his arm and just turning it around like that with his thumb, so the needle through his thumb into my leg to get some morphine in. And then how much I got, I don't know, but then Ryan, he'd got my tourniquet, and so he must have then tourniqueted my legs. And then I remember coming round in what they had, the medical room, if you like, then. So, and we had the doctor who was there, Captain Baxter. And I remember him looking at me, and he was talking to me, and he was saying, there's an helicopter coming, the helicopter's on its way. And I was like, there's an helicopter not coming during the day. There'd been, some of the reports that they had an artillery, like an artillery piece, that they was going to use to try and take an anti-aircraft gun or something. It was going to try and take a Chinook down, so there was no way they was going to bring something in during the day. And we had a doctor there, so he's like, yeah, helicopter's coming in. I was thinking, no, it's not. And then I was looking down, I can remember thinking, what's this green thing I'm in? I was in a body bag, so he put me in a body bag that they lay round and zips it up a bit. And my legs were sticking out, and I said to him, my legs are bollocks, aren't they? He went, no, it'll be fine. I said, why are my feet facing the ground then? So my feet were the other way around at this time. So then the medic lad who was with him, who was from the med corps, he said, right, we'll sort them and we'll splint them up, sort of thing. And then at that point he said that, look, we'll have to get the tail fin out. So I remember him saying we'll have to take the tail fin out now, and pain wise, I think Ryan must have gone down. It had been about 2 hours after I got hit before Ryan come down and said the morphine hadn't got it properly, because it had probably gone more through his thumb or in the air, sort of thing. But the least pain I was in from the whole time, from after being hit to even in Celio, was the time with Dr. Mr. Baxter, because whatever he was giving me, I think it was a bit of gas, it was a bit of tablets, but I was in no pain at all for any of that period there. When I got hit the 14 hours that I was there, I'd said to was it Jim Taylor, who was the OC? I'd said that I wanted to ring him at the time to tell her I didn't want somebody knocking on the door to tell her what had happened, sort of thing. So he organised it, and Ash had got the sat phone out, he'd got comms, he'd rang him and said, Martin needs to speak to you. And I don't know whether she'd heard something or what, but I just said to her, look, I'm just speaking to you, let you know I'm alright, I've hurt my legs, but I'll be okay, sort of thing. And then I asked Jim Taylor to ring my dad. I said, can you ring my dad for me, please? So he rang my dad. I can remember Richie coming in, being a bit upset, a bit of tears, and I said, look, you're in charge now. You've got to sort the lads out. And then Ash had come down, because I remember the tail fin, and I'd said to Ash, I want the tail fin. And then a lad, I can't remember what he's called, he was Javelin. He come down to see us, and are you alright when you're here? He goes, can I have your fags? That's all he wanted. He'd only come down to see if you could have my fags that were here. And then it was like, right, we're getting ready to go. So they got me ready. Must have been about 9 o'clock. I can remember Dickie Halloran, he was there, so he was carrying on the stretcher. There was rounds coming through the field from view, because they must have known that they patches up with something going on, so they were firing through at that. And then where the building was, where the platoon houses, if you like, it was an alleyway, for want of a better word, and then you'd go out onto the HLS, and that's the most where most vulnerable was, lay on a stretcher there, when there was mortars or 107s working out all around us. And I was just thinking, the helmet was just lodged on my head, the body armour was just laid across my chest. I thought, if something happens now, that's it, I can't even move, I'm a goner here. Captain Baxter had given me a brown envelope and give it to me. He said, right, he said, when you get the helicopter, he said, the paramedic that comes, he said, grab him and tell him you can feel your toes. Tell him you can feel your toes. I was like, right, okay. Not thinking at the time what did it mean, so I can just remember getting on. I just remember grabbing hold of his helmet and saying I can feel my toes. And then I must have passed out. I don't remember being carried off the Chinook, but I remember coming around in the ambulance. So normally what would happen is the MERT helicopter would land, and at the back, you know, at the end of the matted HLS, is the ambulance would be there. So I remember I must have either come round, or I can remember being in there and then looking right and seeing a guy there, and it was Blinko, you know, Captain Blinko, who he was based in Bastion as like our link. At the time it was a tented hospital, so the own green canvas must have been loads of the 12x12s, whatever they are, sewn together, and then with a white lining on the inside. And then I don't remember getting pushed down the corridors or however you get in there. I can remember being on must have been an operating theatre bed, a bit of machinery around me, loads of people around me cutting things off. And I can remember it must have been the main surgeon saying to me, look, he must have said, look, you'll be fine, we're going to take your gear off, don't worry, we'll sort it out. And then the next bit I don't remember. But then I remember coming around again with some more red light, and I must have been panicking then, and I must have been pulling at stuff, because they'd said to me, calm down, you're on I can't remember if I was on another helicopter, but they'd sent me to, they'd operated, as soon as I got there, a 6-hour operation, so they must have operated through the night, and then they'd redirected, the paras were off to Cyprus, a TriStar, so they turned it back to come and get me. So that was in Kandahar, so they got me to Kandahar, and I don't know if it was a Chinook that they sent me on, or it was a her, but I just remember like the green red light, whatever it was at the time, and me panicking a bit, thinking, what am I doing back on here? And then I remember coming around again on a TriStar, where it was like triple stretchers with about that much space, and a load of cheers when they landed in England. It comes to a bit of realism about how many guys were getting wounded and injured in Afghanistan, was that it was a coach that was picking people up. So you'd land, and there was a coach there on the airfield, and they'd made it out. I can't remember if I was on top or the bottom, but part of it was just set for stretchers to go in, and then there was some of you walking wounded, but a coach. And I thought, oh God, you know, it's not just like a minibus. Or I was expecting an ambulance to come and take me. So I think I got it 19th at 7:30. And I think the next day at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I was in Selly Oak Hospital. The operation in Bastion is they put X-fixes on. So they just debride the wounds, X-fixes, and just obviously gauzed it and bandaged it up and left it just to get me back to UK. And I can remember this nurse starting to peel stuff off, and it was like whatever was left of my left leg, where they debribed it all, they just packed it out, and he was trying to peel it all off. So a guy who later on had to speak to at Edley Court, he said, he was in the bed opposite me, he said your screaming was going through me. I said, it was like they were snapping it out of my leg. I've never been in so much pain. And so then he said, oh, we'll leave it to the operating theatre. I thought, yeah, it will, it's killing. I remember in the morning I must have been in the intensive care, and Kim had come in. I can just remember seeing her and just saying to her, can you just check everything's there for me, please? Everything's working. I think I was in for about 5 days in the intensive care bit. Again, not 100% time frame. I just remember speaking to. It were two civilian surgeons that operated on me. I'd initially gone onto the military ward, and then because my legs were, I don't know whether it was the work they needed to do on them, but rather than take them off, these two surgeons operated on. I had an orthopaedic surgeon and a like max factor surgeon. So they'd operated. They took my stomach muscles out of my left 3-pack, skin graft off of my legs. They'd done a skin rotation on my right leg to cover where it come through the front of it. I'd had metal IM nails in both legs and screws for that operation. I can remember they must have come round to be checking it. I was saying to one of the surgeons said, I believe you want a cigarette. I said, yes. I said, I'll just go in the corridor. I said, I'll be absolutely fine. So he'd had a go at me, and then the orthopaedic surgeon come in, and he said, my colleague was telling me he wanted a cigarette. I said, yes. I said, I'll have it in the corridor. He said, if you have another cigarette, he said, you'll lose your legs. He said, the damage to your legs, he said, we've spent 12 hours putting your legs together. He said, your circulation, he said, you can't have a cigarette. So I've not had a cigarette since, funnily enough. It's a good way to stop smoking, I suppose. As you go to Headley Court, I can remember going, like I said, I went from Selly early, and it's 4 bays, and I can remember going in, feeling sorry for myself, on my wheelchair, rolling in with bandages all over my legs. And a guy across the way, Mick Brennan, with no legs, and I thought, right, you can just stop feeling sorry for yourself now, because there's always somebody worse off, and they were getting on and doing. So from that, it was like, right, push on, see what you can do. I'd gone back to the surgeon, Mr. Groom, quite a bit, and said, I can't do it, I can't run, I can't do anything, sort of thing. And he at the time, and he said, well, look, I'll do your deal. He said, if I can get you if you can ride a bike, he said, how will that do? I said, right, okay, that's fine. So I think overall I had about 9 or 10 major operations and a couple of minor operations, just like removing screws or things like that, over the period from 2007 through till my last operation, which was 2014. I got medically discharged in 2010 because at the time we thought that would have been enough, but then the infections had started flaring up and they had to do some more work. From there, it's been with the Headley Court and trying to give yourself things to aim for, is that have them little targets, whether it be, I did the Invictus Games in 2014, the inaugural Invictus Games, and I didn't necessarily come anywhere, but I completed it, and I was happy enough. I'd got myself to a position where I could ride a bike and be on the British team and do a race. I think I beat some people, so that was good enough for me. The year after, I did a downhill mountain bike race, the Mega Avalanche, which is from the top of Alpe d'Huez, the double black ski run on a bike down that, and then all the way down to the bottom. I did that, and then I heard about a thing called the Tour Divide, which is a mountain bike endurance race from Banff, Canada, to the border of New Mexico. Mexico, 2,750 mile with over 200,000 feet of elevation, all self-supported, you can't have any help. So I planned to go and do that, so I trained for it, and then as I did about 2,000 miles, my Achilles had started to pull to a point where it was gonna go, and I'd gone past 25 days. You've got to do under 25 days to be classed as a racer. Anything from that, your class is just touring. So I didn't go and tour it. I was going to try and race it. So I'd got to Del Norte, which is around 2,000 miles, and it was 24 days. I thought, I'm not going to do it in time. I would have had to extend the flight. I can remember ringing Kim and saying, well, not saying anything, silence. I thought, right, that means I'm not changing my flight. So I just said, right, that's it. So ditched it there. However, now I need to finish it off. So let's keep them targets going. I just need to try and find, once I've done this, I need to try and take up something else, knitting or sewing or something. So an easier targets to do. But that what keeps me going, and despite the injuries, just still cracking on.